Pat Surtain has the chance to do something that has only been done once by a cornerback since 2010, and that is win Defensive Player of the Year. Surtain is having an epic start to this season. He's completely eliminated team's number one receiving threat. Last week, that continued with Brock Bowers. Every rep that Pat Surtain covered Brock Bowers led to an interception. It was 2 targets against Brock Bowers for 2 interceptions. One on a high throw from Gardner Minshew. The second one where Pat Surtain made an incredible play, breaking up the pass and intercepting it on its own deflection. A really awesome play from Pat Surtain. And it just continues the absolute tear that he's been on. Now that he's got a couple of interceptions on the board, though, Vegas is starting to take notice, and his odds to win Defensive Player of the Year have shot up significantly. According to FanDuel, he is actually tied for the third best odds with Nick Bosa at plus 1100 to win Defensive Player of the Year. Now, those odds can vary from sportsbook to sportsbook. FanDuel is one of the more respected ones in the NFL, and it's the one that I happen to use. So this is the one that I'm going to reference for this video. But if you were to look at like DraftKings or ESPN Bet or Caesars or one of the other sports books out there, it would definitely be different odds. They're not all consistent from sportsbook to sportsbook. But anyway, Aiden Hutchinson and TJ Watt are both tied at plus 300 odds to win Defensive Player of the Year. And Aiden Hutchinson, I feel like, should have the slight edge. I think in other sportsbooks he does. He actually has been on a complete tear in his own right this year. 6.5 sacks in 4 games. The Lions had their bye week last week, so they didn't play. But that's an incredible start to the year. TJ Watt in 5 games has 4.5 sacks. That's solid, but I don't think that should be in the same caliber as Aiden Hutchinson. Edge rushers are naturally going to get more love from odds makers to win Defensive Player of the Year because they have the splashy plays. Cornerbacks, they make their impact by not really having a lot of stats on the stat sheet and taking away teams' receiving threats. But Pat Surtain has certainly been able to do that this year. And then we got Chris Jones. He's going to be in the mix pretty much every single year to win Defensive Player of the Year. He's had a good start to the year. Him and Aaron Donald, the 2 interior defensive linemen that have torn up the NFL over the last decade, and now that Donald's retired, it's all Chris Jones' show at that position. But Pat Surtain and Nick Bosa being tied for the third best odds, that goes to show that Vegas has noticed that Pat Surtain is having this type of season. Now let's go ahead and bring in Pat Surtain's stats from the year, courtesy of PFF. I know PFF isn't everybody's cup of tea, but the stats I'm going to use here are pretty much indisputable. As far as targets and receptions allowed, his worst game of the season was week 1, and I use that term worst game with heavy quotations because it was 5 targets, 4 receptions for 39 yards against DK Metcalf. That's impressive stuff. And then we move into the following week against George Pickens. 2 targets, 1 reception allowed for 16 yards. Mike Evans, once again, 1 reception allowed for 8 yards on just 1 single target credited. Week 4, going up against Garrett Wilson, 3 targets, 2 receptions for 24 yards, and actually the exact same stat going up against the Raiders, primarily guarding Jacoby Myers, but he did get a couple of reps against Brock Bowers, who is the number 1 pass-catching threat now that Devontae Adams is out of the fold. And on those 2 targets against Brock Bowers, it was 2 interceptions. The first one came on a high pass from Gardner Minshew in the end zone. That was the 100-yard pick 6. And then the second one was an in-breaking route that Pat Surtain was all over. He broke up the pass and then intercepted it on his own deflection. Really sick stuff right there. So yeah, man, I think Pat Surtain has a chance to continue to really ramp up his stats as the season goes on. Maybe get another interception or 2. Another pick 6 would certainly be huge. I think that he could really make a statement here and potentially win Defensive Player of the Year for the first time at the cornerback position since 2019 when Gilmore had that epic season. I don't know though, because it's going to be really tough to convince those odds makers. You think about last year when Deron Bland literally broke the NFL record for pick sixes and he didn't win Defensive Player of the Year. So that kind of goes to show how odds makers feel about the cornerback position. But if Surtain keeps this up, he definitely deserves to be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. All right, Broncos country, I am curious. Do you think that the third best odds to win Defensive Player of the Year feel about right for Pat Surtain, or do you feel like it should be higher or lower? Drop those comments down below, guys. I would love to hear your thoughts as always. Be sure to leave a like on this video as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. I would really appreciate it, guys. Those are both free and easy ways to show your support. It helps tell YouTube's algorithm to push us out, and it helps us get seen by more and more members of Broncos country just like you and me. And until next time, guys, I'm your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.